Hi everybody, welcome to a Paragon Gauntlet walkthrough, playthrough, champions I used and some options that I'd recommend. It's rare for me, like I'm back to doing Paragon Gauntlet. That's actually a really good thing. It means that Kabam, if I've now got the time to do Paragon Gauntlet and make a video on Paragon Gauntlet, even after an event like Heartfire being run, that means that we're saving time. And more of this Kabam, more saving players time, so it's not such a grindy game. Anyway, it is still a grindy game, but at least we're alleviating time for players' needs and interests. One thing being, of course, getting access to these rewards here, which are kind of like good, and you need to do them to get tier 2 primordial dust and some other stuff. So yes, Paragon Gauntlet. Here's the team that I went with. I opted for doing the objective, which is you don't use any of the choice nodes, so the team had to be solid. I went through with no revives, one mistake, one champion got knocked out, but that was, you're going to see why I'm a bit kind of testy on that one. I will say that it's my fault, but there are some things that I feel that Kabam, yeah, you're going to see it and you'll be like, Rich, I'm not sure about that. It could be a case it's your mistake, it could be a case that Kabam's AI is recovering too fast. Anyway, right, let's get into it. So, we've got Red Guardian, Ghost, Taskmaster, Sentry, Yelena, and Cyclops. Who you choose will be largely down to roster. There are of course going to be champions that are going to be good options to use, and there's going to be some which, to be honest, I think any champion necessarily works in these scenarios rather than going, these are the designated champions that are correct. But we'll show some footage, some good, some bad of the ugly, and show it in action. An FYI, I have never faced a Yelena before. I don't know her special attack moveset, so you're going to really see that. I need to face her several more times to practice, but this is one good thing. You don't have to go through several different types of quests and multiple quests in order to face her, in order to gain practice. You can just go right in and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights, and she's there. So if you want to go train in, go in Paragon Gauntlet and go train against her. So let's begin with Red Guardian. Now a little bit out there, I decided to use Serpent for this one. I would have potentially used Cheelth or Okoye or potentially Kingpin for this fight. Mainly because I feel that it would be best to deal with combat deja vu weakness. Whenever the attacker lands the same type of basic attack twice in a row, they're inflicted with a weakness debuff. Unless you plan to change your sequence, which that might be recommended to go light, medium, and then start your combo again, or light, medium, light, sorry, and do that kind of like combination change. That might be a better way to kind of look at it. I don't think I did that, but it wasn't really something that became of a concern for me. You do have, however, meet your doom while the attacker is charging a heavy attack. The attacker is within striking distance and suffering from any debuff. They're inflicted with a stun debuff. Try and keep your distance. Probably it. I did actually find that Russian Resolve, if the defending Red Guardian shield becomes fractured, its cooldown exceeds 10 seconds. But also Riot Shield, the defending Red Guardian loses 1 durability in the adaptive shield each time it is struck by an attack except the heavy. So you can use any champion, providing you special attack, rotate when he's down to like about 1. Like, okay, he's got 1 shield left. Hit with a special attack. You're going to see like that in play on screen right now. Hopefully I've kind of timed that correctly that you can actually see that. Where he's down to 1, I throw the special attack and I don't get hit with it. Now I don't know if that's something you're right in doing, or and Kabam might nerf it, but it's something that I use as a method. And if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid. So yes, that's really it. I probably would have used champions that were able to shrug off, especially because of accident prone. Every 5 seconds the attacker is inflicted with a debuff. I don't want any debuffs on me, so therefore it would have been better to kind of rotate around, have a champion that debuff shrugs. Cheelth being a great option. Okoye being a great option. I'm not sure about Kingpin. It depends where you got your team and what you want to do with the choice nodes, if you're avoiding them or not. And down about, you just got to make sure that you throw a special attack after heavy attacking. I didn't have to heavy attack with Serpent at all. I just didn't have to. So that was kind of like my play in my rotation. And that worked fine for me. So whatever you've got. Hercules is very good here. Someone has used, I think, Ironheart for this, but Onslaught as well. Pick your poison really with this. I also wanted to approach this without using Hercules and without using Onslaught. Mainly because I've seen people kind of like say about it, and I just thought, well, let's kind of go away from it. Yes, everybody said Juggernaut, but again, it's another story for another day. Ghost. So Ghost has Power Thief, Miss, Now You See Me, and Buffed Up. You will need a champion that possesses buffs, okay? This is why people are rating Juggernaut on this one. I didn't use it here, but instead I used Serpent. I did actually mess up with Serpent here, and I'll explain why. Because of cross counter, whenever Ghost is going to throw a special attack, you have got to throw a heavy attack. Now, I took a little while to kind of like understand my spacing. So anytime that Ghost was throwing a special attack, as long as I knew the distance of when she was landing, I then throw my heavy attack. It's kind of a backwards way to approach this. So it's not something I overly recommend. But if you can push the champion to those, or kind of understand the positions of when Ghost finishes her special attacks, then throwing a heavy attack is no issue. Other than that, you might need to make sure you're in a block and push to like a special SP3, get her an SP2, and then hopefully get a striker, and then kind of like throw the striker and then heavy attack. Or know your champions with spacing. This is why Juggernaut as well as Unstoppable, or any champion that possesses Unstoppable, is able to kind of like just not be a bit of a concern. Distance with Hyperion, but again you've got to be very careful on that one. Champions that are miss could again do those heavy attacks without any kind of great issue, and I think that's something to focus on. With any champion that's a miss counter, which is why I went Serpent, it kind of felt like that was the best way to go for me personally. But if you've got a champion with lots of buffs, maybe a miscounter, so we're talking True Sense, and is it True Accuracy? Is True Accuracy miss and evade, or is it? No, it's the other one, isn't it? I'm getting confused between True Strike. Either way, and if you've got a miscounter that has buffs, and also a good understanding of the heavy attack rotation, he should be absolutely fine with this one. The champion is stun immune, hence why it's a bit more trickier, so you can't just go parry heavy. So you have to rely on striker, or, as we said, some of those options. Unstoppable, miscounters, blah, 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 blah. Just get them down. Moving on to Taskmaster now. Taskmaster isn't, or doesn't really have any kind of threat. As long as you know the special attack rotations for the champion, like which you will see on screen, it's the 2 shots off the SP1 and I think a single shot of like and maybe a kick off the SP2. I can't remember. I was SP1 rotating most of the time, but it was making sure that as soon as I've done that, then go back in again and changing my sequence with ending attack with a light and ending attack with a medium, just to kind of like play into the abilities. You can use most, if not all, champions. I used Storm against this one. I had a great time. People have used Onslaught, found it great. Juggernaut, Red Magneto, Hercules. Don't really want to say Hercules, but Hulkling as well. Just as long as you kind of are prepared for Armored Assault, while the defender has an armor up buff active, they gain X amount of attack. And I think they're unblockable. Yeah, unblockable. You just got to remember your intercepts. But also, if you've got a champion that's a mystic that can suppress any kind of buffs, might be an option. More for the choice node side of things, if I'm being honest. I was considering Doctor Doom being brought in on this fight, especially to suppress power gaining from a lot of champions, but also just being good in certain areas. Yeah, just power control, dealing with buffs. That could be an option. I didn't really consider bringing in Mystics. And in this theory, you could bring in America Chavez. She's pretty effective against a lot of buff-building champions. But a lot of Mystics do exactly the same thing. I'd say that's recommended for those that are just using the choice nodes. But there could be some scope to use a Mystic like that nullifies buffs, but also takes power. Maybe even like... maybe one of the idols could be good here as well. Anyway, we move on to Sentry. Now, I played this the rough way, but the rough way is still the smooth way. I used Storm for this one, and that was just out-damaging the champion. Alternatively, it's difficult because you might want to use a champion that heal blocks, but you can't. So you might want to nullify some of the buffs the champion gets, like armor up buff, because as part of Vigorous Assault, Oh no, as part of the regeneration champion gets as part of Vigorous Assault, he will go unblockable, which means that a lot of the time you will be on the front foot for intercepting. And that's not too bad if you know how to intercept and intercept well enough. And you know, I'm an okay person at intercepting. I did fine, just as long as you know the special attack pattern of the SP1, the kind of the beam that comes towards you, or him in a beam, or no, him and he beams, doesn't he, at you off the SP1. So as long as you kind of understand that, create distance, you'll be absolutely fine. Go back in with a 5-hit combo. Hale and Hearty might want you to heavy attack, but it's not particularly easy to do if the enemy is unblockable. So you have to be good. That requires timing. You could say that after the SP1's thrown, try and time in your heavy attack, but in theory that's got to work. And if it doesn't work and you can't trust the AI, then you might need just a champion that's got prowess, big debuff damage, and maybe nullification in order to suppress. But for most things, people are using champions like Cheelth, Photon, Okoye, Hercules, but I recommend Storm because, as we've seen, what we see on screen, Storm does the big damage with the prowess buffs and just kind of blast through. I think most champions will work here. It's just how aggressive you are and how much damage you can do. Moving over to Yelena, I completely messed up the kind of pattern of basics and rotation that she does with special attacks because first time I've ever played against that champion. So as long as you keep it to an SP1 and use champions that are incredibly powerful, mutants, I use Storm for this one, but it was absolutely fine. Try not to block, and that is very easier said than done with the special attack 1, which you'll see that she was reclaiming back a lot of power very quickly. Not great, but it is what it is. And I tried my best to kind of like get through this. But yeah, just kind of like throwing the special attacks, prowess, should have built up an SP2, then thrown that as opposed to like an SP1 rotation. But it is what it is. Sunspot, Gentle, Onslaught, strong mutants. Any strong mutant will work here to take down the champion. And that's really it. Other than that, I don't see anything that's of a great concern or worry. Yeah, I suppose you could watch out for cruel combos. Yeah, okay, I guess you could watch out for compelled dual special attacks. When the defender activates their SP1 or SP2 within striking distance, the attacker is passively rooted. Yes, just watch the gunfire and evade that, or keep your distance. Easier said than done, especially if you're facing off against a new champion for the very first time. But it is what it is, was what it was, and yeah, I didn't see any concern. Cyclops can be absolutely fine, or he can be absolutely frustrating. He does have all these different... He says bullet time, which I think is slightly frustrating. Anytime the defender is stunned, they immediately remove the stun and gain an evade charge. And if you're building that on him, yes, he is frustrating. That's a given. But it's not ridiculously bad. Just as long as you do that evade, but then trying to get it off, like using Dex as the evade charges are removed and the defender is passively stunned, then you can throw your special attack. I went in a different approach because I wanted to be aggressive with Juggernaut, and that did not work out to how I wanted. So what I wanted to do was get on early doors a stagger debuff, just to suppress any kind of extra prowess buffs coming in, especially what happened. Now, with Juggernaut, you can play aggressively, which is fine. But, and what you're going to see in the footage that I'm going to showcase is a still of me throwing a striker when the champion looked to be passive and the striker did not make contact. It looked like he did, but the AI recovered faster. Now, Kabam have already noted that that is a bug and an issue because Kabam Crashed himself said that AI was recovering quicker than it should do, right? And what is fair. And this is something I hope that AI 2.0 addresses, because it is unfair when stuff like this happens, because technically the striker made contact, but actually it did not. Now, I will say it could have been me. Maybe I was late throwing the striker. Possibly was my fault. But I kind of like looking at that image, the still that I got, and I was like, man, this just sucks. It really does. But it is what it is. It was what it was, and the damage has been done. However, it was a non-item used run, and any champion works here. Hulkling, Viv Vision, people have been using. Someone even used Shuri. I would have personally used something like Ultron, Bastion, or those prowess suppressors like the infamous Iron Man. Juggernaut does work if you get no striker whiffing. So yes, use who you think is going to be good for this one, but whether you... and also because you can't have access to shocks, power controlling champions may be good options here. Techs could be really good options here, depending what you're doing with your choice node, and you might have to be reliant on who you have options wise. Anyway, that's been it for the video. Went on a little longer than maybe I wanted, but it is what it is, and have a lovely weekend, whatever you're doing. I'll see you all in the next one, and goodbye.